On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. She's the founder and CEO of the P5 Project, a badass entrepreneur. She's on fire and just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life. She is also the one person since the inception of CLS that can go toe to toe with me and match my energy. So, audience, buckle up. Please welcome Jenna Atkinson. How you doing, Jenna?
Woo! I feel like I want that money, 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 money. Like I need theme music like they had at Celebrity Apprentice. I just want that to play when I go on. But that's an awesome intro, and I'm so excited. Thank you for having me, Craig. I love the CLS experience, and of course, you're the bomb.
I love you too. And look, we have a lot of big names on here, but this specific one I've been super excited about for a long time for obvious reasons. I'm excited to dive deep. We're going to get a little weird. You ready to rock?
Always, always, baby. Let's do it.
We're going to jump around, but I want to ask and start with this. Jenna, what is your superpower?
I think my superpower is being able to connect with anyone. One of the coolest things that I've heard recently is a mentor of mine, I'm in his mastermind group, Chris Harder, said a line that really stuck out to me. And he said, when you're reaching out to make connections, whether it's a potential client or partner or investor, whatever it is, even if they're, light years ahead of you, seemingly in business or their career or life, whatever it is, when you reach out, you either have the energy of a fan or a friend, and you can't be both. So you can be a huge fan of someone, but if you come off that way when you're reaching out, it's going to be really hard to be on the same level as them ever and ask for a partnership or a relationship other than something where they just see you as a fan. So I think being humble and understanding that someone might be further ahead than you is what you need to do, and that's good. But also I think my superpower is just being able to be like, hey, Mark Cuban, what's up? I'm sending you this email from the cornfields of Iowa. I think I can add some value to you, and I'd love to have you be a part of this event I'm doing. And then a guy that's a billionaire with hundreds, thousands of emails shot me an email back, and he was one of our keynote speakers. So superpower, connecting with anyone at any level is one of my favorite things to do, and I always love a challenge.
Yeah, I love all of this. And if the audience couldn't see, you'd have to surgically remove the smile from my face because Jenna always speaks my language, but specifically with this. And it's so interesting that you just said that because I've had a lot of big names and celebrities on the show so far. And in the beginning, obviously, you want to be humble and pay the respects to some people who have been doing this a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to find that balance between kind of like acknowledging, their experience, but also letting them know that you're not a chump, for lack of better words.
Exactly.
Like you've been here before, and you got to kind of find that balance. And it's so key what you just said. And for the audience listening, that's so valuable. Those of you who are looking to collaborate or connect with bigger individuals in the space, whatever the case may be, you got to go in there with some confidence and an aura like you've been there before.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And I love what you said too. I think that, like you said, acknowledging and showing respect is totally okay, and you absolutely should do that. But being able to say, hey, I might not be exactly where you're at now, but there's still different ways that I think I can add a lot of value to what you're doing. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make, especially if they're early in their career or early in their business, is just being really discouraged and not being willing to like reach out to people ahead of them because they're thinking like, man, what do I have to offer someone that's a millionaire or a billionaire, super successful in their business or career, if I'm just like, I don't have something that can match their level or catch their eye. But if you're creative about it, you do a little research. It doesn't matter what level you're at. There's always something that people want and a way that you can add value, whether that's, introducing them to a new audience. It doesn't have to be millions of people, especially now when things are virtual. For someone to take, 20 minutes, a half an hour out of their time from their living room with their laptop, like you don't have to have millions of followers. If it's the right audience for them, they might be willing to do it. So introduce them to a new audience, especially if they're authors. People that write books always want to get more copies of their books sold. So that's a great opportunity to get big names when they're trying to promote a new program or book or something new that they have coming out. That's something you can do. And another thing is, if people are really big, you can always just look up like what is really valuable to them in terms of like giving back. What are they passionate about? What are the causes or like philanthropy that they're involved in? Maybe you can't add something on the business level, but if you say like, hey, I'm glad to help raise awareness for Boys and Girls Club because I saw you're on the board of that and I know that's really important to you. Like that goes a long way with people. It doesn't always have to be huge checks or some huge equal business value. So be creative, and no matter where you're at, there's a way that you can add value to anyone at any level.
It's so interesting that you say that. I always do so much homework when I'm speaking to these types of people because I want to be able to build rapport and find commonalities. And it's similar to what you just said. And another thing that I think personally, one of your superpowers is one of the most important traits that I think is required to just be on fire in life. Whatever it is that you're doing, business, relationships, is your confidence.
Yeah, I think even virtually now, Craig, I mean, even virtually, and whether it's Zoom or, you know, through the computer screen, people can feel when you're passionate about something, when you're excited about something. You got to even bring it to another level. And I know you're so good at this. We've done interviews and some chats, and you're standing up and you're like, you can feel it through the screen that you love what you do. You're good at it. You're excited about it. And, you know, one of the biggest things to grow a community or, you know, be an attractor of the people or things that you want in your career in life is like being magnetic in your own energy and being excited. People don't want to, it doesn't matter how smart you are, how much money you're making. If people are falling asleep when they're listening to you, like it's going to be really tough to gather that support or get, you know, get your message across. So you got to have that energy, you got to have that passion. And if you're not feeling that for what you're doing right now, you need to start figuring out what makes you feel that way and get into that, because whether it's sales or community building, it's just a transfer of confidence. And if people don't feel like you're confident and excited about what you're doing, why the hell would they be confident and excited to spend their money or their time or their energy working with you, buying from you, partnering with you? Because it's like, dude, if you don't even believe it, why should I? So you got to be your number one fan, number one energy builder all the time. And that will attract, you know, your people, your customers, your partners that you want.
Love that. So is it safe to say confidence and passion go hand in hand?
I think it definitely helps. If you're excited about something, I think you have a lot more, it's a lot easier to be confident in something. And I understand people are sometimes in a position or a job right now where you got to do what you got to do to pay the bill sometimes. But I know you always say, you know, like, let's manufacture magic. If you're in one of those positions that you're like, dude, I can't just do what I'm passionate about right now. I'm working on it, but maybe that's not my full-time thing yet. If you can manufacture that feeling of like, maybe I don't love the insurance industry, but do you know what I really love? Working with people and making sure that their families are safe and protected, and knowing that, you know, people's kids don't have to worry about if something happens because I'm going to make sure they're safe. So like, find the angle of the thing that you're working with, even if it isn't like the whole business or your whole career or your whole job. Find like the little angles of it to kind of amp yourself up and manufacture that passion and excitement about it, because that'll build your confidence in your conversations and your sales and whatever else you need to do in that position until you can get to the 100% passion job or career, business, whatever it is.
We're only a few minutes into this conversation. You're already supplying so many gems. I absolutely love it. And for the audience listening, obviously they're going to fall in love with you in 2 seconds and they could tell your confidence. But when did you really become Jenna 2.0?
I don't know if I am. I think this is like Jenna version 9,900.0. I mean, I think if whether or not you're an entrepreneur or just have big goals in anything you do, one of the most important things you can do, Craig, is constantly be evolving and learning and making mistakes and growing from that. So yeah, I'm definitely way past 2.0, and I think I'm just a big nerd myself. I read every single business book I can get my hands on. I listen to all the podcasts, CLS Experience, top of the list. But just always trying to learn and improve yourself is something that's really important to me. So I'm always trying to find the next thing and reach higher.
Love it. Love everything that you're saying. Let's take it back for a little bit. You grew up in Wisconsin?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Home of the cheese and the Packers.
The Cheeseheads.
That's right.
Tough loss this year.
Ugh, tell me about it. I can't go back to that. I'll cry on camera.
No problem. Jenna, you were the first one in your family to go to college. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Yes. My parents neither one of them went to college. My mom especially was, poor growing up. She would tell me about how in her house, in Wisconsin, they didn't have heat. They had like a fire burning heater. So in the morning, I don't know, this might be one of those parents, like we had to walk to school uphill both ways stories. I don't know for sure, but she would tell me like we would, have our drink of water or whatever before bed. And in the morning, it would be frozen to like ice in the morning because it was so cold. We didn't have heat in our house. So neither one of them went to college. But both were just extremely hardworking people, like so committed, so dedicated. Whatever they do, like it is 110% their all. They're not slacking at anything. My dad worked for UPS. He started as a driver at UPS, worked there for over 30 years, ended as an executive on their leadership sales team, but stayed at one company for over 30 years. Bless him. I don't know how he did that, but just really worked his way up there. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom to start, and my dad's job allowed her to do that, and she loved that. But then eventually when we got a little older, she actually started some businesses of her own. So together, my mom and dad bought a business, and then they started some other ones together, and in a really small town. So they're like small mom and pop kind of really hands-on businesses. They had an assisted living home and a restaurant and a couple other things. But you could really tell that whatever they did, like I said, they went all in. And I was really blessed and lucky because I got to see the importance and value of hard work, of relationships, the pros and cons of the corporate side of things, and the pros and cons of the entrepreneurial side of things. And I just really learned so many lessons from them growing up. And I would say having a college education, I think the school of hard work that they went to, I don't know if I should say this, but I think that might have paid higher dividends than a degree, especially for an entrepreneur where, people might agree or disagree, but I don't think necessarily that those types of credentials matter as much anymore. And especially going into the future, your skills, your values, your work, and your results are going to speak a lot louder than any letters you have at the end of your resume.
I agree with that. So you got some entrepreneurial spirit at a young age from your parents because you witnessed them start all these businesses.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience, but I think that's always a question that I hear people ask is like, do you think entrepreneurs are born or made, or do you think you can learn to be an entrepreneur? And I think that anyone can learn to be an entrepreneur, but it's not for everyone. And I think there's definitely people that are probably predisposed to be more of the entrepreneurial kind of person. It's just like a personality type. And I'm sure you like understand this too. It's like you have that risk taking, you're willing to kind of go into the unknown. You're like building the airplane on the way down from the sky. You're trying to figure things out. And like my husband, for example, super smart, engineering, very detailed, very, very good at his job. Actually just got a promotion this week, incredibly successful in his career. But if I told him like, you need to start a business next week, I think his head would pop off because he would spend the next 30 years, like, doing research and making spreadsheets on it and trying to figure out the details, but he would never actually like start the damn thing because he like wants it to be so perfect. And that's what like his personality is. So I think, yes, I absolutely got the benefit of learning and seeing firsthand what entrepreneurship was like, even on a small scale. And I think that was definitely valuable. But I think just my first experience, I think, was middle school, 6th grade, running the school store. I was like, man, this is awesome. I get to pick what colored erasers and like pencils we have in here. And then I get to help get all these kids all these cool supplies at lunch. This is the coolest thing. It was probably so nerdy, but I thought it was like the most exciting, cool thing ever to run the school store. So I think some people just have that personality, and whether or not they know it's entrepreneurship when they're younger, I think it helps position you for success in the future in that area.
Agreed. And a couple of things come to the top of my mind. Number one, I love that you're such a nerd at heart because so am I. And number two, I think you're absolutely right. Like anybody could develop some skill sets to try entrepreneurship, but it takes a certain breed to really, take all those risks and do all the things that come along with being an entrepreneur, because any successful entrepreneur will tell you it doesn't go up in a straight line, no matter how successful they are. Even Mark Cuban, who we mentioned earlier, like there's peaks and valleys, and you got to have thick skin, and you got to have perseverance. So I don't think everybody has that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the tougher part for people to learn, or like to be taught. Like you said, anyone can, man, go on YouTube, go on Google, you can learn any technical skill for free right now. That's why I'm saying like the college part is like, I don't know, even the business side is probably outdated the second they write the textbook, especially now with online business, because stuff changes just so fast. I don't know how they can keep up. So like the marketing, the sales, the online like business, the website building, design, like the skills are the easiest part to learn. The part that's hard to teach someone else, like you said, is like the personality, the resilience, the ability to take risks, the ability to fail many, many, many more times than you probably are going to succeed, to hear no way more times than you're going to hear yes. I have this sign behind me. I love this. I talk about all the time. It only takes one yes for success. And my friends always like comment on that for me. Like, you know, some of the, you know, responses I get or emails or comments or things that I tell them, like people say to me or that I hear like in the course of business, they're like, I don't know how you do it. Cause if I got one of those, like I'd start crying and like never open my computer again. And for me, like, maybe it's a good thing or maybe it's a bad thing. I think in a lot of ways it's good, but for me, it just like rolls off my back so quick. I think some of it's like just being kind of ADD that, hey, I don't care. On to the next one. You know how many people are in this world? You hate it. You don't like it. This isn't a fit for you right now. I'm not offended. Okay. Like I know there's a ton of people that are, because what I do is valuable. It's exciting. It can add a ton of value. So don't waste your time on the people that it's not for. And I think entrepreneurs are really good at, you know, seeing that and having the mindset and those softer skills of facing rejection or resiliency or, you know, risk taking, all the other things that we talked about. And that's hard to teach, I think.
I agree. And you have to really not take things too personal. It's like a good NFL quarterback. Like you have to have a short memory, right? Like if you throw in a deception, the next drive, it never happened. It's forgotten about. I'm starting from a clean slate. So I absolutely agree with that. I love that.
And that's whether it's a negative or a positive too. I think you can't have like one big success and then you're like, oh yeah, like this deal's good, we're good now. It's like, I think you got to have a short memory on either side, the bad side and the good side, and just like you got to keep your eye on the prize, keep going, always reaching higher, get rid of the haters, the negative stuff, the stuff that's not a fit. You find your people, you'll know right away that they're a fit, and it'll be a lot less of a pain in the ass for you, and a lot bigger opportunities to come when you make those right connections.
It's so funny that you said that, because a couple members of my team, as we continue to hit like new milestones with CLS and stuff, they're always like, let's celebrate. Or we just did something cool. Like we hit a certain amount of downloads in the podcast, or we sold out our first mastermind. I'm like, just once we get to this, then we can celebrate. And I just keep moving it back and moving it back, or moving it ahead, I should say. It's like, I have the mentality that I've never arrived. It's just keep more and more and more. So it's so valuable. And I think it's special that you said that, because yeah, you have to have a short memory with the losses, so to speak, but also with the gains. So you stay laser focused and driven and not get too excited either.
Let me put an asterisk on that though, Craig, because yes, I totally agree with you. I'm with you. I'm always moving it out there. But actually, like, you know, fairly recently, I was like having, for me, something that I never experienced before. And I was having a lot of issues with like anxiety. And I'd have like, I'd be sitting at my desk working and I'd like have a panic. Like I would just start sweating, like full out panic attack. I never had anything like that before. I'm like, what is going on? I have no idea. So I started talking with a therapist, again, from the Midwest, like very traditional, conservative. Everyone, that's not like a big thing that a lot of people do. So it's like a big step. But I started talking to this therapist. I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. I'm not like, there isn't one thing that's super stressing me out. I feel good. Business is good. Family is good. Like, I don't know. I'll be writing an email and it comes out of nowhere, like this physical stuff. I can't control it. And I've never experienced anything like that. And we started talking about, you know, what my goals were and what you're talking about, how you're always aiming for the next thing. And she's like, so tell me, in your business, in your career, in your family, whatever areas you have goals, what right now, today, would enough mean for you? Because I kept telling her, like, I guess the only thing I'm stressed out is I feel like I'm never doing enough. I'm not doing enough in my business. I'm not doing enough to serve enough people. I'm not adding enough value. I'm not, you know, being enough of a good mom to my kids. I'm not being enough of a good wife. And So she would ask like, what is enough in each of those areas? And I didn't have like a really crystal clear answer. So she'd be like, right now, if you said, I feel really happy about where my business is at right now, not saying you can't grow and continue to improve, but right now, what would make you really happy if you were doing X? And I couldn't think of anything. And she said, that is where the anxiety and the panic attacks come from. Because think of it this way, it's not the big goal or the always wanting to improve that causes stress. What causes stress is not knowing what enough is now. If you're trying to shoot a bow and arrow at a target, like think of if that target is constantly moving back and you never, ever, ever feel like you're hitting it because you keep shooting, and it keeps moving back. Think of this way then. If you are shooting a bow and arrow and you have a target, maybe you miss it, you can adjust, then you hit it. Well, then move that thing back. So celebrate however many downloads you got, celebrate the amount of people you're serving now, like acknowledge where your target is at right now. And when you make the adjustments to hit that, take a minute to celebrate, not saying sit on your laurels by any means and like do that for a long time, but acknowledge it, especially within yourself, with your team, whoever you got, and then move the target back. Make sure that it's not a target that's consistently moving, because that can really be, panic and anxiety and stressful, anxiety inducing is stressful because you just feel like no matter what you do, it's not enough. And that is not a good feeling to have. You got to celebrate the successes and the milestones along the way. And that will propel you even faster to move those targets back even faster and further, because you have that feeling and, that feeling of success and accomplishment along the way. If you never feel like you're accomplishing it, man, that's a tough road to go on forever. If you're like, I'm never doing enough. So that would be my advice for that. Yes, I'm with you. Always keep improving, but acknowledge, even for a little bit, a short amount of time, those wins and victories and accomplishments along the way.
It's so true. And just hearing you articulate it, it does make sense because look, I have that overachiever mentality, as I know you do. And that's definitely something I'm working on, to be able to take a moment and celebrate the small wins. I think just in the beginning, when you're building something and it's so special and you're putting your heart and soul into it, you just think so big, and that's a gift and a curse, right? I know you have it too. Most people don't think as big as you and I do. Like most people wouldn't have the guts to email Mark Cuban. Let's be honest, but you do. And the same thing with me, like to get all these guests on the show and just keep like moving the chain, so to speak. But you're absolutely right. And I have no ego. I'll absolutely receive that. And I'll definitely try to do a little bit better of a job of celebrating the small wins. That definitely is important.
Hey, it's still tough for me too, but I was with you because like you said, I was so nervous because I was like having this, stress and these physical like reaction stuff. I'm like, man, this is not going to be good for business if my whole thing is like think bigger, go for big goals, and then going for big goals, like I'm literally losing my mind over here. Like, but it was really refreshing to know that the big goals and like trying to achieve big things is not the issue. It's the knowing what your milestones are along the way, and acknowledging that, being really crystal clear about the process along the way, not just the constant more, not enough feeling.
It's true. I definitely.
So big goals still good, guys. This isn't excuse. This isn't a pass to not have big goals and big vision. You still got to do that.
Yeah, think as big as you possibly can. She's not saying don't do that. She's just saying when you do move the chains a little bit, take a moment to acknowledge it.
That's right.
So when you got out of school, I know you were in marketing. How did you go from there to starting the P5? Like, what was that journey like? And also, I'm not surprised that you got into marketing right away because you're one of the best marketers I've ever met.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so out of school, went to business school at Wisconsin, and kind of a cheesy story, terrible at finance, terrible at accounting. Took a couple of those courses more than once, not by choice. I'll say that, Craig. But out of college, so you're like looking at all these internships and the job board, and I don't know about anyone else, but I was like, okay, my parents helped me with college. Now I'm totally on my own. I need something that I feel like is going to impress them, that they made a good investment in me to go to college. Like I said, neither one of them went to college. So I was like, I can't, be the first one to go to college and then I take some job at McDonald's. Not that if you're working at McDonald's, that's anything bad. Like, you get it. But I was like, man, what can I do that will impress my parents? So I'm looking through all the job board, and I saw this position for a company called Strategic Wealth Management Group. And there's like the logo and the branding look very high end, very rich. And I was like, man, Strategic Wealth Management Group. I'm not even sure what that means at this point, but that sounds very fancy and like very collegey, you know, very, very high end to me. I don't know if it does anymore, but in my college brain, that really stood out to me. So I got this marketing position with a company called Strategic Wealth Management Group. It was a high net worth financial firm. And it was funny, Craig, because in college, at least when I went to business school, marketing was all about like the 5 P's of marketing, like product, promotion, pricing. It was like more focused on like retail product kind of marketing. And I didn't even realize that there was an opportunity to get into like professional services marketing. So from there, I worked for some big high net worth financial firms, accounting firms, law firms. Even though I was terrible at finance, all my friends thought it was really funny that I was working at these like really big high-end financial firms and I like could barely add. Well, maybe not that bad, but I was working at all these firms. Luckily for me and for the clients, I wasn't actually doing the number side, although I did get my financial licenses eventually. But I was doing like their business development, sales, marketing part, and it was really cool that I got into this industry almost kind of like by accident with the Strategic Wealth Management Group, because I really enjoyed the marketing and business development side of professional services, because it was all about relationships and building a network and partnerships and collaboration and finding ways to add value to people in a big way. Not that, you know, products can't do that too, but man, whoever's managing your money or who's your attorney or who's your accountant or your financial advisor, that's a lot of trust you're putting into someone. So just the marketing that would go into, you know, those types of businesses or those industries was a lot different. And it really helped me from a young age, not only see the importance of it, but help others and myself build a really strong network, you know, starting pretty early on, I think, even by accident, which now looking back was awesome and extremely helpful and something that I think is important and continue to do now. But so I worked for these big financial firms. Then eventually I branched off and started my own training consulting company where I work nationally with a bunch of these financial services firms. And then my husband and I had 2 daughters in 2 years, and things, you know, I don't know if you heard 202, but it's as crazy as it sounds. It's wild, awesome, but crazy. And I'm not the stay-at-home mom type, Craig. God bless the people that are, because it's got to be the hardest job in the world out there, and they don't get enough credit. But on the flip side, I'm thinking like, man, if I'm trading time away from my kids and my family and my husband, the things that will always be the number one priority for me, no matter how big my business goals are, my professional goals are, I really want to make sure I'm focusing my time and putting my time and effort into something that is really making what I feel is like the biggest impact on the most amount of people, on something that I feel is really important and I'm passionate about. And not just a big paycheck. Don't get me wrong, the big paycheck's still important. Still want to get all that, do all that, the money, hell yeah, let's do it. But I wanted the route to be there, to get there, to be a little different. So mid 2019, still pretty new, started the P5 project. P5 stands for Purpose, Passion, Profits, Progress, and Possibilities. And we help entrepreneurs and leaders, especially women, think bigger and increase their income, impact, and influence so they can make a bigger positive difference for the people, causes, and communities that are important to them. And the whole goal is just, especially being from the Midwest, Craig, like open your eyes and think bigger, even if it's not for you, for the people that it is for. I want to make sure they have accessibility and connections to resources and opportunities that can really help elevate them a lot faster to get to those big dreams and goals.
Once you had this vision in your head and you realized that you were going to take a shot at this, what was the first step?
So the first step, I think, was just trying to think about what the value is that I would provide and who the audience was that I'd provide it for. So when I first started, I was really specific about wanting to help women entrepreneurs, especially women in the Midwest, now virtual. I mean, our first event had 2,500 people from over 13 countries. So that's one of the things that's been really cool about a lot of the world being really virtual right now. So that opened the door to a lot of opportunities. But I think, yeah, the first thing is when you're starting a business, just getting as crystal clear as you can about who it is I'm trying to serve and in what way can I add value to them? What is the transition that I can help them make? And I think one of the things that we talk to people about is when you're starting a business, think about you a year ago, or you 5 years ago, or you 10 years ago. Like, where were you at, and what have you, like, what is the transition that you've been able to make? Like, for like people in finance, like, man, I was $100,000 in debt and now I'm a multi-millionaire. And this is how I accomplished that over this amount of time. And now I'm going to teach you to do that. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and why I think, some of the coaching stuff or online courses sometimes can get a bad rap, is because people are trying to teach stuff that they themselves haven't accomplished yet. Like, I'm not good at social media. I don't like social media. I need, like, that's one of the things I'm hiring some people to help with now. But you will never in my life, Craig, hear me give anyone else social media strategies. Like, could I read a ton of blogs and podcasts and books and like regurgitate what I've learned from other people? Maybe, but I don't think that's effective to be teaching other people something you have accomplished. And that was one of the things that frustrated me so much about going to all these events and professional development kind of things in Wisconsin, is I would go to all these events and it would be like, I'm learning from people that are making $50,000 a year. Not that that's a bad thing, but if that's not my goal, like, I can only learn so much from you. I'm not going to learn from a, fitness person that's 500 pounds. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I want to learn from a social media person that has 100 followers. Like, I want to learn from people that are further than where I'm aiming for, that they've walked the same path. So
Yeah, no, I agree with all
think
this.
about the transition you can help people make. And that's what I want to do with the P5 project.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing is it's a very saturated space, especially with like courses and stuff like that. It's absolutely true. But also, I think someone like you and myself personally, you can you can get through the fluff right away and see who's real and who's not. But I guess a lot of people out there probably can't identify who is legit, who has done it, who's been in the trenches, so to speak. And I think what you're saying is accurate. It's tough for some people to really see who's real and who they should really give the value to.
Yeah, I think consumers are getting smarter than ever too. I mean, you know what's a commercial and what's a real piece of content, even with like the advertorial kind of stuff now. Man, Gen Z is like crazy. They, like, some of the ads are like 3 seconds now, because they know if they're any longer than that, people are like, nope, not this ad, don't want it, don't want it. So it's the same thing with what you're talking about in authenticity. And it's like, man, I can tell from your story, I can tell from your attitude, I can tell what you're talking about. If what you're saying is just something that you read in a book or heard in a podcast, or if you're like, let me give you the exact example of in my life where this happened, how I overcame it, how I can help you do it, and this is where I'm at. Or if it's like, yes, for goal setting, you must have SMART goals. SMA, it's like, bro, you read that somewhere. Get out of here. What does that mean for you? Like, what's the exact thing you did, and how exactly can you help me? And people can see like the really high level general kind of stuff. It just doesn't work anymore. You need to be super specific with your niche and your area of expertise and how that relates to your, your story and the value you can provide.
Yeah, love that. And that's why I connected with you very quickly when you and I crossed paths, because not only do you have an unbelievable energy, but just everything you speak, like you could tell you're as authentic as it gets. And if I was going to take suggestions of from anyone based upon what you're doing, it would be you, because I know that you've been there, you've been through it, and you know how to do it. So I appreciate that. And I admire that about you.
Hey, same back to you. I love that. You're all in for CLS. You live the life, you walk the walk, and I think that's so important. So keep killing it over there.
I appreciate you so much. Another thing that's so trendy these days that I specifically wanted to ask you about is the money mindset stuff. And a lot of people talk about it, but a lot of people I don't think really understand the concept of it. But you obviously do, because it also has to do with how big you think and your map of the world and the paradigms, the way you see the world just differently than most people in the best way possible. How could people enhance their relationship with money?
Well, I think money, like, there's a new book and I love it. It's called The Psychology of Money. And it's so interesting because money is such a weird thing. Like, it's a piece of like cloth, paper. Like, what is it really? But the
Energy.
psychology that goes behind it and how people spend it, what they do with it, how they make it is just so wild. So I'd recommend that book to anyone. It's called The Psychology of Money. And one of the most interesting things is money is one of the only things that you can know what you should do and what will lead to success and still not do it. And I thought about that. I'm like, that's so interesting. So the mindset piece of money is so important, but it's also one of the hardest pieces because, I mean, I always go back to this. Growing up in the Midwest, like, you get indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking about money, whether you recognize it or not, from like a really young age. So it's hard to recognize and acknowledge something when you don't even realize it. It's like asking a fish if they're swimming in water. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? This is just like what I'm surrounded in. What is water? And you're
Great
like,
analogy.
bro, you're all around it. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, I don't know what you mean. I'm just like swimming around. That's what money mindset is like. If you're constantly like surrounded by a certain, type of talk or feelings or thoughts about money, you grow up with that and you start telling yourself like certain things that might not even really be true for you. So like for Craig, when I started first thinking about this, and one of the books that first helped me do it, I love it. I recommend it to everyone. I still listen to it all the time. It's called You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. Recommend it to everyone. And it says like, just start thinking about what are the earliest memories you have about money? Like, did your family talk about it? What were the thoughts? And I remember like so clear, one of the first things I remember about money is, first of all, no one would talk about it. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like I would ask my dad, like, how much money do you make? And he'd be like, we don't talk about that. You don't know that. We're like, it was so hush hush. To this day, I have no idea, like, if they have $10 or $10 jillion. I will never know. And I think some of that's like a Midwest, be humble, conservative kind of thing, like whatever. But one of the clearest memories I have is like my mom at a family Christmas, my cousin drove up in a brand new BMW. My cousin, the nicest guy ever, super hard worker, super like philanthropic, give back to his community, give back to his church, like help anyone who ever needs help, giving back, but super hard worker, successful in his job. And he drove up to our family Christmas in this brand new BMW he got. And I thought my mom's head was going to pop off. She was like, oh my, I can't believe he would drive up in this car. That is just rubbing it in our faces. How arrogant that he would do that. And so, not that she like directly said money is bad, but as like a kid hearing those types of examples, or like, I don't know why they need those nice cars, or like, that's so selfish. Who needs a house that big when you're driving through a nice neighborhood? Like, all that stuff kind of teaches you subconsciously, like, money's bad, you're a jerk if you have a lot of money, you're selfish, it's not the right thing to do, when in reality those types of thoughts, so then you start saying things like, money's not important to me, I don't care about the material things, I care about my family, I care about giving back. But the connection that people don't make, Craig, is that money is just a tool that can amplify the way that you can serve and help so many people. And if you're putting in the hard work and you're the one busting your butt every day and you want a nice car, you deserve a nice car too. It's not an either or thing. You can like have the Porsche and you can help the puppies. Like, you can do both. And the more successful you are financially and the more you can get your mindset, right around money and acknowledge that it just can amplify the amount of ways that you can serve and support and help other people, the more that you're the one, taking the rejection, taking the failure, getting kicked in the teeth, falling down, putting in the long hours, doing all of that stuff, getting rich and being financially successful is actually the least selfish thing you can do if you then use that wealth in the right way. So the mindset part is just critical, but it can be super hard if you don't first like acknowledge you're the fish in that water and need to get rid of some of those things, because you can kind of train your brain into thinking you're saying the truth when it might actually be doing a lot more harm to you than you realize, and you might not actually believe those things. It's just what you grew up with. So books like You're a Badass at Making Money, any books around money mindset, highly recommend. And I think the mindset part is just something that you have to constantly be working on and growing. And it's like the muscles when you go to the gym. You can't work on it once and then you got a six pack for life. It's like every day you got to be thinking about it, doing some affirmations, and just always looking to improve in that area.
So true. And specifically about the conditioning, like from an earlier age. And a lot of people just have like this mindset of scarcity. Like if they make it in, like a lot of people are afraid to make the most important investment there is on themselves. Like they'll spend money
Hmm.
on a lot of nonsense, but when it comes to like making the most important bet of your life, betting on yourself and investing in yourself, all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if I could afford that, or how, now they're just trying to get back to that to break even. Like they don't look at it as like the ROI, the return on investment.
Exactly. I think one of the big, differences between highly successful people and those that aren't is being able to, number one, identify the differences between an investment and an expense, whether that's in yourself or anything that you do. An expense, you put in money and it's gone. An investment is something you put in money and it grows, hopefully a lot. And anything that you do, like professional development wise, investing in yourself, I agree with you, best investment you can make can and should have a huge return on your investment. So the first part is identifying investment versus expense. The second part is what is the second part? So you capitalize on that return and make sure you get the return from it. Yeah.
Love it. Everything you're saying speaks to my soul. Another thing that I want to speak to you about today, because something that you do specifically that I don't see a ton of people do, but you do it so well, and it's something I embody in myself as well, is networking and just forming relationships and like partnerships. And even if like you're not necessarily doing business with someone, just surrounding yourself with like the right ecosystem, right? Like you and I don't necessarily do business together, but I love
Not
to.
yet.
That's right. That's right. And I love to connect with you and collaborate with you and just brainstorm with you and just talk. And I think that's so important to build that type of ecosystem and surround yourself with people like this. It's one of the reasons why, like, I hate to say outgrew, but there's a lot of people that I don't really speak to from my past, and I still have
Mm-hmm.
love for them. It's just that they don't align with my vision today. But how important is it to you to continue to build that network and form partnerships and relationships?
Hey, you can go back to the cheesy line, but true. Your network is your net worth. And I heard someone, man, I forgot who it was, but a podcast or something this week say, what do you do about, your lifelong friends that don't have the same vision as you anymore, aren't a fit anymore? Kind of like you said, Craig. And their answer was, I don't believe there is a such thing as lifelong friends. I think you're meant to grow and evolve, and relationships change. And if people are on the same path as you, they'll stick with you. And if they're not, like, you can't force someone to be, going after the same things as you. So your network is your net worth, and you should constantly be trying to level up. Another saying, stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, don't always try to recreate the wheel. That's why I think having those high level mentors or people that you connect with is so important, because they can shorten your path to success so much. I always tell the story of when I was in high school track. I hated to run, by the way, but I was a basketball player, and our coach made us be in track to like stay in shape in the off season. And so I was in track, hated to run. And we had this coach where, I don't know if you had this, were you in track, Craig?
I wasn't in track. I just run marathons now.
Oh, casual. Yeah. So we had this coach where, I don't know what it was, if this was like a real thing or they like made this up. I have no idea. But it was like imagine like a huge, like adult size rubber band. And this coach that was a like collegiate track athlete would put it around her waist, and then we would get in the back and like put it around our back. So this rubber band was like around her stomach, around our back. So we're both inside this huge rubber band. So we stand, however, 10 yards back, and this collegiate athlete that clearly is much faster and better and stronger than us just takes off sprinting around the track. And we're like connected by the rubber band though. So it's like, bam, like we snap forward, like you better get your feet running or you're going to like eat some track with your teeth real quick. And when that rubber band was around us, like it snapped us to run way faster, even for a short period of time, than we would have been able to by ourselves. And that's what I relate, like having these high level mentors, even from afar, like whether you're listening to their podcast or taking their course, reading their books, whatever, you need to find those people you want to attach your rubber band to that can snap you with them faster than if you were running around that track by yourself. So who are the people, like we talked about earlier, like who are the people that are at where you want to, want to be, like who have achieved the things that you want to achieve, and make sure like their values, everything is in alignment with yours. Like, is Bill Gates super successful? Yeah, but I don't want to run a technology company. I don't want to be like a nerdy old man that, doesn't only cares about whatever, like the things that he cares about, is passionate about, is good at. Like, that's not me. I want to find people that, prioritize family and kind of like Midwest values and giving back, but also have accomplished like multi-million dollar, billion-dollar businesses, but have found a way to do them both together. So find the people as close as you can to your priorities, your values, but also like specific business goals or professional goals, because they're going to be able to show you that fastest way with the rubber band than you trying to figure it all out for themselves, because they're already that strong collegiate athlete in the front, and they'll be like, hey, here's a rubber band, man. I'll snap you up. Look out.
That's a great analogy for so many reasons, specifically the visual that you provided me. Thank you for that. In addition, I have to say, I know you said that you wish the P5 or something of its nature was around a little bit earlier when you were younger, but how cool is it and special that it is going to be around for your daughters?
Oh man, I love that question. And that's one of the reasons that I chose to go this route when I was thinking about the new business direction that I wanted to take after we had our kids, is because, man, talking about following people where you're at, I know a lot of people either love them or hate them, but Grant Cardone and especially Elena Cardone, I've had the privilege of, talking to both of them, having both of them speak at our events. Went to Elena's event actually in Vegas. The 10X Ladies event was the last like in-person big event that I got to go to before the earth ended pandemic style and ended in-person events for a while. Hopefully that's coming back soon. But they have two daughters too, and they're a little bit older. I think, I don't know for sure their age, but maybe like 9 and 11 or something like that. And at this huge event, like Grant and Elena would bring their daughters on stage, and they would like their daughters, I mean, a little older than my kids. My girls are 2 and 3, but like 7 and 11 or 9 and 11, however old they are, still little kids, could go on this stage and just speak so well and have such confidence talking to an audience of hundreds and thousands of people in an arena that most adults would be like terrified to do. And just because they grew up watching it and learning about it and learning about like this money mindset and how your success can serve other people, it's one of my favorite things to listen to Grant and Elena talk about, just how and why they've incorporated their family into their business. They homeschool their kids, so they have, most people, if you know Grant, like they have a private 10X plane they take all around the world, or they did when you could more. But then their girls get to like experience all of that with them. So I want to be able to show my kids that, you can still have big business or professional or personal goals, but find ways to prioritize your family and what's most important to you and your values. And if anything, add more value to them, because you can, work them into what you're doing. You want your business to revolve. You don't want your life to revolve around your business. You want your business to fit into your life. And I think with the P5 project and the things that we do and the resources we provide, there are a lot of things that in the big picture, on the grand scheme of things, there are things like life lessons that I want to teach my daughters, like think big, go, take risks, go for it. Don't be afraid to connect or reach out to anyone. Know money and know that money is a good thing because it can help you serve others. So all the things that we work to help other people with are all like secret mom lessons I want to, sneak into my kids too.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I could speak to you all day long. I just love everything about you, and I love how aligned that you and I are. Speaking of the P5, what's the vision? I know how articulate you are, strategic and methodical. Where do you expect this thing to be in the next few years, and what could I get excited about personally when we're seeing it?
Oh man, we're a day early, and I know this episode is going to come out a couple of weeks after we're recording this, but we have we'll find out about whether or not a really big partnership is going to happen probably tomorrow. And so I'm in a weird kind of position the last week or two in the balance of, if that happens, we'll be going one way, and if it doesn't, either way is okay. I'm a strong believer in, if things are supposed to happen, they will. So it just really depends on actually this decision tomorrow, Craig. And then I'll be able to much better articulate the specific resources and offerings. It's all under the same, general umbrella, and all the topics that we talked about: thinking bigger, finances, getting your money in order, making more money, making a bigger impact. But how exactly we're going to execute that in terms of deliverables will be decided a little bit more tomorrow, because
I understand.
that will determine how the resources, time, money, all of that's going to be allocated. But events are always going to be a big part of it. Dynamic live events, virtual, hopefully in person soon. Pitch competitions, grants, funding opportunities, and just building a community of, powerhouse people that are movers and shakers, taking action, thinking big. That's always going to be a part of it, no matter which way we go after tomorrow.
But see, here's the thing, Jenna. Whether or not that specific partnership comes to fruition tomorrow is irrelevant, because you're going to land another juggernaut if need be.
Hey, I'm with you. I got it. It only takes one yes for the next level of success, right?
I would bet on you all day long. And I can't wait till you and I to share the stage together. Could you imagine?
Yeah, we're going to have to work on that. You said we didn't work together yet. Maybe that's the next thing. We got to build the CLS P5 double ultra experience. Bang! People's heads will pop right off. They won't even know what to do afterwards. It's like inevitable. Too much hype. You got to look out. It's going to get wild.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, I love that. And same back at you. I could talk to you all day, and I love everything you're doing. And yes, I cannot wait to find what we got to do together next. Maybe it's an event when stuff starts turning around a bit.
We're getting closer. I want to ask you this real quick for the audience to have a little fun. How do you personally avoid a burnout?
Well, I think, like I said, this year was a really eye-opening experience to me, and just like some of the things that I experienced. So I think the biggest thing is doing some self-reflection, and literally you can make a list, like draw a line down a piece of paper. On one side, these are the things that I love to do, that energize me, that I could do until 5 a.m. in the morning and not go to sleep and keep doing again because it just energized me. I'm so excited to keep doing it. I don't even realize what time it is. And on the other end, or on the other side, like, what are the things that I hate, I dread, I don't ever want to get done, I procrastinate doing. When I do it, it sucks my energy. I just hate it so much. And if your hate side is a lot longer than your love side, I mean, you're always going to have a couple on that side, but the goal is to minimize that. And that is what really helps minimize burnout, I think, is just finding ways to do things that you love and are passionate about, and delegate or, outsource or do whatever you can to get more and more off the dislike, hate, energy sucking side. So having that self-awareness of, evaluating, are you really doing the things that you like and are passionate about and that energizes you? And if the other hate, dislike, energy succubus side is getting too long, thinking about what are the actions that I can take to shorten that list, delegate, change things, find a new job if you have to. Like, there's plenty of things. So to avoid burnout, self-reflection, get more in the like, love, passion, energizing side than the other side. And kind of like the target stuff we talked about earlier. It's okay to take a break, to celebrate the wins along the way. You want to take a day and watch Netflix all day? Hey, sometimes you got to do that. There's no hate in that. I think that 24/7 like grind culture that seems so popular, Gary Vee style, that, I mean, maybe there's some people that can live like that, but if anything, you're hurting your progress and motivation because you're just, like you said, burning yourself out. So take a Netflix day if you want. Know yourself. If that's going to the spa, if that's going to get a drink, if that's watching a full Netflix series, like, take your time, but then get back at it. Just do that self-reflection, and don't be afraid to rest or ask for help or delegate what you need to do.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes perfect sense to me. And we'll end it with this, and it'll segue two things that you just said. Number one, you mentioned delegate, which I want to ask you about. And you said perhaps maybe you just needed a drink. What's your drink of choice?
Well, I'm from, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Miller Lite, casual, non-classy tailgate Packer game gal. I'll take a Miller Lite in a can any day, or whatever's free and cold. I'm not picky.
Sold. Also, you said delegate. I know that you and I have very similar personalities, which makes our connection so special. How hard is it for you, or was it, and you're learning now, to be able to delegate and trust the team?
Yeah, I definitely am picky about how I like things. But I would say, Craig, the hardest part for me wasn't delegating or recognizing the fact that I could be more successful if I did delegate more and just spend all my time on like your zone of genius or whatever you want to call it, what you're excited about, what you're the best at that no one else can replicate for you. Um, what was hard for me was I am like a big picture person. I think you are too. So like the details, the systems, the processes, like that's on the hate side for me. So I would find these people that in certain areas were like better at, that subject or that topic than I was, like website or online marketing or social media stuff that I'm not good at, I have no interest in. There's a lot of people way better than me. I would find these people, but to help like create the detailed process or like systems in order to delegate it was the hard part. So I actually found someone that was an expert at that part, the middle part. You always got to think about like if you're putting something off or you're not doing it, what is keeping? Is it time, money, skills, resources? There's almost always someone, like a person, that can help you bridge that gap. So I actually found someone that was an expert at like the operations, process, systems, like that's their zone of genius that they nerded out about, loved it. And then they could help work with me in like, a couple quick Zoom chats where I talked about what I wanted or what I thought, and they put it all together in a format that would allow me to delegate it easier to like the people that are better at it than I am. So just wherever you have an issue, what's holding you back, think of who can help me solve this? What's the issue? And what type of skill, what type of person, what type of expertise would help me bridge this gap and solve the problem? Because I guarantee they're out there. If you're saying I don't have enough money or I can't afford it, you can't afford not to. So how can you, that's another difference between successful and not successful people is instead of saying I can't afford it, think of how can I afford it? What can I do to hustle a little bit, sell some of my clothes on Facebook Marketplace, or do what you got, do a little extra Craigslist thing. Like there's so many random side hustles you can do to get some quick money if you have the right mindset of like, I can't afford not to do this. I know I need this. I'm going to find a way to make it happen.
Let's be honest. You can always be resourceful if you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
If you want it bad enough.
That's right.
I guarantee that my audience is absolutely falling in love with you. By the time this episode drops, probably be at 100,000 downloads. Where can they all creep on you, stalk you, find
Man, you better be celebrating that 50,000, then double celebrating that 100,000. I'll cheers you a Miller Lite in your honor from way over here in the snowfield lands of the Midwest. But they can check everything out. Even my not great social media habits at Jenna Atkinson P5 or at the P5 Project on Instagram and Facebook, even Twitter, I think. And then just our website is thep5project.com. You can check out our Money Magnet Summit. Like Craig said, we had an awesome lineup back on February 10th, but you can get access to all of it on demand, all things money. We had powerhouse lineup, people like Mark Cuban, Sally Krawcheck, billionaire, co-founder and CEO of Elvis, undercover billionaire, star of the current season, Monique Idlet Mosley, the new president of Success Magazine and Success Enterprises, Don Hobbs, and just people on all different money topics. So go to the p5project.com, check out the Money Magnet Summit, and you can see all the other resources and stuff we have going on there.
Perfect. And what's the best way that someone can work with you, Jenna?
Man, I'll tell you that after tomorrow. But yeah, I think just getting involved in any of our events. We have pitch competitions every quarter where we give between $5,000, $25,000 cash prize. But yeah, any of our trainings, resources, upcoming events, I would say the best way right now is to just keep an eye out and get signed up for those, because those are, man, some dynamic stuff going on. I strongly believe if you want to learn something, learn from the best of the best. Don't, empower yourself to the middle. We say that because like women's empowerment. Then I see all these people like, I won't even get into that rant, but P5 Project, all about learning from the top. So all of our training, resources, events, man, they're people like we talked about earlier, Craig, people that are walking the walk, not just talking the talk, and have crushed it in every area of their business, career, and life. So they're people you want to learn from. Sign up for the webinars, events, all of that. And luckily for you, a lot of it totally free.
Yeah. And for my audience, I know you guys trust me. Trust me when I tell you I only collaborate with people I trust and respect. Jenna surrounds herself with amazing people. She's amazing. Absolutely go check her out. And if you heard this conversation, you absolutely love it, shoot her a DM on one of her 2 Instagram accounts. Let her know that you heard it, or on Facebook, and just tell her how much you love her and how much value that we provided here today. Jenna, I just
Hey,
want to
I
say,
appreciate you, Craig. This is so awesome. Thank you for having me. I know the CLS experience is one of those things that's top of the top, best of the best. And I know you do the same for all your guests and all the things that you do for your community. So, you guys, thanks so much for being a part of this. Craig is top of the top, too, and just kicking butt over there. Celebrate all the wins along the way. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me, my friends.
yes, I promise you this. When we hit 50,000 in the next couple of days, I'll have a toast for you in your honor. I will force myself to celebrate small wins, and I will condition myself to continue to do that going forward. And also, I just want you to know that you are the definition of perseverance, Jenna, from grit and heart, from being the first person in your family to graduate college and now making a monster impact on the world through P5. You're a role model to anyone coming up today and someone that I admire, I appreciate, and I respect very much. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. I absolutely love collaborating with you. Your energy is contagious, and you could take this to the bank. This will absolutely not be the last time you and I collaborate. I can't wait to continue to watch you fly, and we will absolutely chat soon.
Whew, appreciate it. Thank you so much, Craig.
So much love for you, Jenna. That was great.